Y'all probably know by now that I play a lot of The Sims 2 prototypes on this channel. I like to show them off and show off the differences between the final retail version of this game. But I haven't really showed off much of the demo yet. Mostly, I just thought it probably wouldn't be very interesting because it was only released not long after the final retail version of the game, so I didn't think it would have many differences, or at least what I was most interested in, which was prototype content that has been changed. But I decided to take a look at the demo anyways, because I thought maybe there would be some differences that people will find interesting, and I think this is an interesting way of doing it. You see, instead of just playing the demo normally, Okay, let me give some explanation on what this demo is. Back in the day, PlayStation Magazine used to come with these discs that had demos on them. The demos usually feature a level you can play to get a feel of the game, and this was actually my first exposure to the Sims series in general, because I had a lot of these demos growing up, and one of them had The Sims 2 on it, and that's how I discovered this entire series. To quickly explain what happens in The Sims 2 demo, basically you can create a sim and you are taken to an edited version of Cliffside Retreat. An edited version because it has some of the Sims that are from other lots living there, like Jasmine Yves and Larry Lou, for example. It also has custom objects in it. By that I mean it has objects you do not usually see in Cliffside Retreat. This is to give the player a feel of the game. Because it's not the full version, many of the objects were locked in the game and you cannot buy them unless you have the full version. And finally, you only had about 12 in-game hours to play the game and do all your Sims goals. By the time those 12 hours are up, the demo ends. So, I did not play that way, because guess what? This demo actually has developer cheats. And with those cheats, you can access all the other story mode lots, as well as even free play. So, playing this demo not the way it was intended, I had to ask, how much of this game is actually playable? Well, I played it for about a couple hours, checking out everything it had to offer. For one thing, it does not have its opening. You cannot play free play mode normally, but you can with cheats though. But I don't play that right away. I checked out the other lots first. The problem with the lots I noticed is that almost all of them are empty. Almost all of them had the objects removed. In every lot, except for the one used for the demo, Cliffside Retreat, they are all missing their backgrounds. The only thing you can see is the sky. So no roads, no trees, no street lamps. A lot of times, these levels will mess up. For example, characters seem to disappear at random. Characters just seem very unresponsive and will not move or do anything even if you try to command them to. And something that I've noticed is that the opening scene where the characters are explaining their situation will just replay over and over and over again, and this will basically become a loop until you have to reset the game. But the question is, why does the game break like this? Why do characters struggle to move? Why does the intro just play over and over again like this? Well, okay, let me try to explain this the best way I can. The game has been obviously heavily edited. You see, the prototypes are prone to have a lot of bugs and glitches and behave unexpectedly, and that's because it's unfinished. That is actually not the case for this demo. Despite there being everything missing, this is not actually unfinished. This is a finished build. The thing is, for it to be a demo, it has to be in a much smaller size. So, many of the features were removed from this build to make it smaller. And I'm gonna assume why a lot of times the intros messes up is because of missing files, like maybe because something was deleted. It's not telling the game that that the intro is supposed to end and you're supposed to progress. Like, because something is missing, it gets stuck in a loop. Well, I'm not 100% sure that's the reason, but that's what I'm gonna assume, because there is a lot of stuff missing in this demo. Like I've already went by, the scenery is missing on all lots, and almost every lot is empty. Like, with the exception of some objects that are likely left there because they didn't impact the size too much, like maybe a fridge here or the game console in Tranquility Falls. And basically all the houses just look like empty shells. On top of that, the game also had missing social features. I noticed when playing that a lot of social features from the final version are not there, they're not present, and you can't do them. Such as the sock puppet interaction, it does not exist in this build. And when somebody died and they were a ghost, I think they only had the puke function and nothing else. But what does this mean if a lot of this stuff is missing? Well, that means you can't really play this build for long at all, because your Sims will have a lot of wants that they just can't fulfill. Like, they'll want to use sock puppet interaction on someone, except they can't because there's no sock puppet interaction available. Or they might want to buy a certain object, because you see, as I said earlier, a good chunk of the objects are locked because they want you to buy the retail version to get those objects. And even though this build has a cheat node available, like in the developer cheats that lets you supposedly unlock all objects, it just does not work with this version. They will remain locked. The same thing goes for the Create-A-Sim items, but a lot of them are also locked, and I haven't tried it myself yet because in order to unlock something you have to gain 100% relationship points with someone, but I'm gonna guess that the cast items just do not unlock either. They're the same way as the build buy items, but I don't know that one for sure yet. I noticed very other weird stuff too when playing this build, and that is the characters seem to struggle to leave the lot. Like, for example, here's a scene where the newspaper guy just does the whole jump into a black hole thing, which is something that usually just NPCs do in this game. If you've played this game for many hours as a kid and got bored, you might start doing funny stuff to entertain yourself with the game. And I remember when I was a kid, sometimes I would try to like block the service NPCs in my home. So I would build a wall around them as a way to trap them, and yeah, if they fail to leave the lot, they will just draw this black circle on the floor, and then they'll jump into it, and then bye-bye, they're gone. So it seems like in this, for some reason, maybe because a lot of the background's missing, the service NPCs kind of struggle to leave the lot. I also noticed that my default sim did this too. Like, when I switched off her and switched to someone else, she left, which was very weird. I just don't know what would cause that. Again, I'm guessing it's just missing scripts in the game's files. When you start a game off in a different story mode lot, your sim will autonomously walk away, and it's very hard to keep them to stay and stop doing this, but there's not even an action queue when you look into what they're trying to do, which I'm gonna guess she is trying to leave for some reason. For some reason, the game is telling her that she should leave. Some lots I managed to get the work right. Eventually, the longer I just stayed there without switching to any characters, it eventually just fixed itself, I guess. Other lots, like ones that didn't really have any intros to begin with, worked, but like had weird glitches, like on the what was the beach level called? Wow, I forgot what the beach level was called, but on that level, it didn't have any problems, but eventually even the NPCs started working, but as you can see, the camera is really messed up. Like, it's still acting like it's the intro's camera. Other things I noticed that do not work in this build is that you can't get a job, at least not in story mode, which I'll get into what I mean about that shortly, but if you try to get a job, the carpool will just never arrive. Again, I'm gonna assume it has something to do with that being disabled or the script being deleted, but yeah, so you can't really progress in any story mode goals that require you to get a job. I also noticed the taxi does not work. If you click on the taxi ding, it just won't let you leave. Because again, in the story mode lot of Cliffside Retreat, there is the taxi ding still there too, so I'm gonna assume the taxi ding was disabled to, again, prevent players playing the demo to leave the lot when they're not supposed to. If you try to visit any free play lots with the cheats on the story mode levels, then it always messes up. Like, no sim will be down, and it'll just be the lot, and time will be sped up, and you can't really do anything because no sim. Again, it's acting as if no sim exists on the lot. Except you can play free play mode because there's also a cheat to access that, which I thought was pretty strange that there's a cheat for that at all, given that you don't really need to go to story mode ever, but I'm gonna assume the only reason they had a cheat to access free play mode was that they could delete all the sims that were there to, again, make the game smaller, and they could edit the lots easier. But yeah, you can still access free play mode regardless. Of course, made my usual test sims for it. I created the Foundry members, or at least the best I can with the limited create a sim assets in this version. As you can see, free play mode is just like the rest of the lot. All the background is missing. But other than that, free play mode seems to work relatively well. Unlike in story mode, it does seem like jobs do work. You can go to work and therefore get money. But again, as I mentioned earlier, due to a lot of objects being inaccessible, and I don't think there's a cheat to access them, you just can't fulfill a lot of wants. Like, if your sim wants to buy a computer, you just can't fulfill that want because you can't buy a computer. And again, social interactions in free play mode are still very limited. A lot of them are still missing, so you'll be repeating a lot of the same interactions. I also noticed that there are some lag times when playing the demo too. I don't recall those lag times ever being in the actual demo, so it might just have to do with playing the game very unintended. So yes, that's really all I have to say about this build. Yes, it's not the most interesting build of The Sims 2 available, but I just thought people might be curious as to what it's like to just play it in a way that wasn't intended, to try to play the full thing rather than just the small demo bit at Cliffside Resort.
Ram! Gravula? Labni Korpta, Labni Koof, Winner, Zoj, Winner. Ego! Mankano. Zang. Nursky Bursky Bursky! Nursky Bursky Boo!